Hi all, welcome to my channel, welcome to my world, welcome to the World of Wayne podcast. In the last podcast called the Solar Sapsis, what a weird title that was, I told you one of the influences that got me involved in YouTube and building my models on YouTube, so I thought it would be rather fitting today to do a podcast about making your own YouTube studio so that you can record and pretty much make your own YouTube channel. And I'll tell you about some of the things that I've stumbled across along the way, some of the positive things, some of the negative things, and some things that you can do to actually make your channel successful if you want to do what I've done. So let's get into it. Welcome to the World of Wayne podcast. Now, believe it or not, making a YouTube studio is a lot easier than you think it is. It doesn't cost a hell of a load of money either. When I first started, I only had a real basic computer and a real basic camera. As a matter of fact, you don't even need a powerful computer or a powerful camera, camcorder or webcam. There are other things that are way more important than doing that. So obviously you will need some sort of PC, mainly to capture everything and to edit everything, because that's with the situation we're in at the moment, where most things are done on a PC. You can do it on your phone as well, but trying to edit on your phone, you're going to have a bad time. But even a laptop or a PC, no problems at all. That's probably the most important thing you need. Now, the second thing, go into a lot of detail for this, is obviously you've already got your workstation where you're building your models. You're going to need to light the place. Now, not just light the workstation, because obviously you want to see what you're building, but you're also going to need to light for the cameras for your YouTube studio. And I can't reiterate this enough, that no matter what webcam, camcorder, phone camera you use, they are pretty much all the same if you get your lighting right. And the lighting has to be brighter than the sun. I'm telling you, it's got to be, you'll be surprised at how bright the lights are in the studio. Now, back when I first started, I got these massive photographic softbox lights. I had 3 of them. I had 2 on each side of my face, and I had 1 pointing down onto the workstation. So you can imagine those things were pretty much bulbs. I can't remember what wattage they were. They were really expensive, as in energy usage, because they kicked out a lot of heat as well. So the workshop would get really hot, and they took up so much room. And I think that whole kit of the tripods and the lights cost me around about £80. I don't use them anymore, but you know what? They lasted for a good 5 years. Until I finally made them redundant, and now I've gone over to LED lights, which are pretty much half the price, and I'm only using 2 of them, 1 for my face and 1 for the workstation. Now, the things with LED lights is you do need to get a little bit more expensive one than your basic workstation light. And the reason for that is because LED lights actually run on a frequency. And if you don't get the right frequency or high grade LEDs, you're going to have flicker on your videos. Now, you might see some of the videos where I've actually turned the workshop main light on. That's caused a problem, and you'll see a flickering in the video, but you can't have that. So in my Amazon store, which you can find all of my products on Linktree or linktr.ee/World of Wayne. You'll be able to find all my links there. I've actually put some of the lights that I'm using in my workshop on my Amazon store, so you give you an idea of exactly what I'm using. Now, if you've got your lights right, it doesn't matter what you're using to record with, and that's where I'm going to move on to camera shortly. But if you've got a webcam, doesn't matter what brand, as long as it's a 1080p and you've got your lighting right, trust me, most of the images you're going to do are going to be pretty similar, most of the video, depending if you get a Logitech Brio camera, which I'm using here, which is really expensive, to a Microsoft 1080p camera, which is like a quarter of the price. Long as the right lighting's right, trust me, you're going to have no problems at all filming, because it's still going to be sharp. And that's all because of the light. Don't be fooled by people saying you really need an expensive camera, because you don't. You just need to get the lighting right in your area, your YouTube studio area. And then the second most important thing, so you've got your PC. I'm not counting that because that's a given. You're going to need that. So the first most important thing you need to get right is your light. The second most important thing, believe it or not, is your microphone. You thought I was going to say camera then, didn't you? It's your microphone. If you've got shoddy audio in your YouTube video, it's really hard to watch. You try watching someone who's got muffled or aerated sort of sound. It's really hard to watch. I know some of you actually turn the volume down and can watch, but believe me, if you've got good sound, people will still listen to you, even if the picture's bad. But your picture's not going to be bad, is it? Because you've sorted the light out. The light's absolutely fine. Now, you can get some high-end microphones. You've got Yeti Blue mics. These come in around about £100. I'm using a Shure mic, which is about £160, and I'm only using that because of doing the podcast here. But most of my videos, you'll see me wearing one of those little lavalier mics, which just plugs simply into the PC, and that's the PC mic. That was around about £12 off Amazon. A real cheap lavalier mic. So you can have all the mics you want in the world. You've even got headphone mics, but they're not as good as those little £12 lavalier mics that you can clip to yourself. And the advantage of using those is that you can move around and you won't have any loss of sound where you're not facing the direction. For example, the microphone I'm using here, I have to speak into, but if I was turning towards my workstation here, as you can see, that microphone goes right down. I have to be in front of it for it to work. You don't get that with a lavalier mic. So my recommendation is, if you're going to be recording a video, use a lavalier mic, because when you are building, you know what it's like. You're going to be opening boxes, you're going to be finding sprues, you're going to be finding everything that's been eaten by the carpet monster. So you need to go on the floor to get it. People will still be able to hear you because you've got that lavalier mic on. And I don't worry about the wireless one as well, because obviously you're sat in one place. So a wired one's absolutely fine. And these do come with hell of a lot of lead on them, normally around about 10 meters. So I could go right over the other side of the workstation if I wanted to, and you'll still be able to hear me, no problems at all. Now, when I'm recording, I use a software called Open Broadcast Software. Now, this is free. Absolutely free. I've got to learn to say that word properly. Three. I've got to pronounce the TH. Open Broadcast Software is otherwise known as OBS. And if you go to Google and just type OBS, you'll see the link for it. You can download OBS Studio completely free. Now, the advantage of OBS Studio is that not only can it record your video and it can record your sound, because you pick which camera you want to use, you pick which microphone you want to use that's plugged into your computer, but you can add filters to it. And all of mine have a noise suppression filter, which takes away all the air and cleans up your audio for you. Remember, this is completely free of charge. Now, I use OBS to record my video of the builds that I'm doing. It's brilliant for that. And then you'll have one video with everything in it, which is all of your video and sound put together from a free program, and that's OBS. So check that out on Google if you haven't got that. Now, the other good thing about OBS is once you've mastered just recording some video of yourself talking and being on camera, is it actually a streaming software as well. So rather than click the start recording button, you can click the start streaming button. And when you've got a YouTube channel, you're doing exactly the same thing, but you're streaming it to the world. So the disadvantage of that is that if you're recording, you can edit things out when they go wrong. But if you've watched the World of Wayne channel long enough, you will know that I always make mistakes on the streaming. Hence, Car Crash Tuesday stream. But OBS software is the software I use to actually capture anything that I'm filming with my head camera. So when I'm talking to the camera, when I'm doing every video and I'm saying, hey all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the world, and I'm talking about what I'm building for the day, that is using a webcam going through OBS, and the microphone is actually recording through OBS as well. When I'm actually doing the build and you see the build cameras on my workstation, they're slightly different, and that pretty much leads me onto the cameras that I'm using. Now, as I said, with cameras or webcams, I've only got one webcam, and that is now a Logitech Brio. That's quite an expensive webcam. The reason that I've got an expensive webcam is because in low light situations, it doesn't get grainy. Now you find, as I mentioned earlier, that if you buy a webcam that's cheaper and you've got the light right, the picture's going to be fine. The trouble is with the cheaper webcams, it's when the light's not right, you're going to get grain, and it's going to look very grainy on the screen. So you do need to get that light right. I can't reiterate that enough, that getting your lighting right's the way to go. Now I use a 1080p webcam. Now even though the webcam I've got here is a 4K webcam, I never record in 4K. It's too big a file, and pretty much everyone who's watching it is either going to be watching it on a phone or watching it on 1080p on a PC. Unless you're watching me on one of your massive screen TVs, and then you will probably notice a difference. But I only use one webcam. The other reason for only using one webcam is if something goes wrong, and I don't know, the PC shuts down, or you get a blue screen error or something like that, you've lost everything, because it doesn't save the file. You can save it as what they call an FLV file. So if the computer breaks down, you've actually got part recording in there. But the software I use to edit it, unfortunately, doesn't recognize those files, so I can't use that. So I record as the Apple format, the MP4 format, for all my videos. So if something goes down on my webcam, I have to record it again. That's why for my workstation, I actually use camcorders. Now, the camcorders I use are Panasonic V210s. Now, these camcorders are about, they must be a good 15 years old. They are really old. They were one of the first 1080p camcorders on the market. And you can probably pick these up on eBay now from anywhere between, say, £50 and £90. And I originally had one, but I've got three now. And I could have had upgraded camcorders and stuff, but they work absolutely perfect. And the good thing about the camcorders is they have SD cards. So if there's power outs or anything happens that tries to crash my video streaming, it's all stored on a memory card. So I will have some sort of footage that I can use. The good thing about camcorders as well is that it uses its own sound, even though I don't actually use the sound for the edit, and I'll explain that later on. But if all my microphones go down, with 3 camcorders, I've got 3 different sound sources, so it's not a complete loss. I can work with some of the sound from one of those camcorders. So as I said, the only things I've got in the workshop is a webcam to do the actual talking, and all my build cameras are on camcorder. Now, the other thing you could use is your phone. Now, back when I first started a YouTube channel back in 2015, the phone quality was not all that at all. But now they're way better than any camcorder or webcam that I've got. So if you've got a Galaxy or a Samsung or an iPhone, you could use that. Now, the only disadvantage with iPhones and using your phone is that you can see yourself obviously doing the talk, and you're going to be recording on your phone. You won't have any problem with any crashes because it's stored on your phone. But you won't really be able to see yourself. It depends what camera you're using. If you're using the face cam or the selfie cam, you'll be able to see yourself. But a phone is just as good as a webcam. It just means that you won't be able to broadcast live. Now, you could broadcast live with a phone. There is ways to stream it. I've got to stream an A10 Mini Pro where I can connect my phone to, and I can stream myself through my phone. But believe me, when a phone is streaming, the quality is nowhere near as good as a webcam. I don't know why that is, because the cameras are better, but you're never going to get as better quality as with a webcam. But for just basic recording, trust me, you can use your phone. Now, if you are using your phone, you won't be using OBS, so you'll be using the phone as the video source and the microphone source, and that will be your one file. So when it comes to recording, what I do is I have the webcam on all the time. I have my microphone on all the time, just recording the sound. And that microphone is going to be the sound that I use for the whole video that I'm creating. And then on my 3 camcorders, they're recording all the time as well. They are recording their own sound, but I don't use that sound. But it's very important that every camera that I'm using does record the sound. And that's because when it comes to editing, there are clever things that actually automate things for you that you don't have to do. Now, with editing software, you've got your video, but your video files are now on, I'm using 4 cameras here, so you've got your video files on 4 different cameras. So you want to edit those together and be able to switch through them. Now, there are plenty of software out there that you can use. If you want a free-based software, so you're not paying for it, you can use a software called DaVinci Resolve or Microsoft Movie Maker. In fact, I recommend you actually download them and play around with using them now, because if you can use one of those programs chances are when you move up and use some of the paid for options, they use the same techniques. So if you can use one, you can use another. It's like learning to ride on one bike and then getting a new bike and being able to ride on that. So if you for free bases, you've got DaVinci Resolve and you've got Microsoft Movie Maker. When I first started, I used a product called Cyberlink Power Director. Now, I believe that's around about £64. It's a one-off payment. It's probably more now, actually. This was a long time ago. But they do give you a 30-day, no quibble, no credit card, free trial. So you get to use that and see how that runs. And as I said, if you can use Microsoft Movie Maker or DaVinci Resolve, you will be able to use Cyberlink Power Director, no problems at all. But the actual one that I use is Adobe Premiere Pro. Now, that is a paid-for thing. Now, I do get that subsidized because Mrs. Welder Wayne's a teacher. And if you're a teacher or student, you do get a slight discount. You don't actually own the software. You have to rent it monthly. So I think we pay about £20 a month. But with that, I get everything. You get Adobe Premiere Pro, Photoshop, After Effects, Adobe Acrobat Reader. There's loads of things you get on that. You even get a program called Adobe Rush, which you can actually edit edit videos on your phone. It does make things easier, but as I said at the beginning of this podcast, you don't want to be editing on a phone. It's frustrating. You'll end up throwing it across the room. But Adobe Premiere Pro is the one that I use. And the reason I use that, because with the other ones, if you've got 4 camera sources and you put them into your computer, and I will do a video to show you physically how I edit, but you have to manually line up each camera so that the sound is correct for each camera that you switch to. Because if you put it in, chances are one camera's not synced to the other cameras, so they're all going to be in a different place. You have to manually adjust it. It takes forever. But with Adobe Premiere Pro, if all 4 cameras have recorded the sound and we've got the separate sound file that I've recorded through my lavalier mic, it will match up all of those videos to the lavalier mic. And then all I have to do is switch through what camera I want to show at the time. It's really easy. It's like being in a recording studio with 4 buttons and just going camera 1, camera 3, camera 4, camera 2. And that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing anything special. It's really quick. And I said I will do something on the YouTube channel about how to edit. I think I did a video quite a long time ago, but I think that needs to be updated. But the editing software is entirely up to you how you edit the video. My recommendation is just to muck around with it and create yourself a 2 or 3 minute video first, just so you can get to grips with the editing and the sound and make sure that the light's right. So you've got your light, your sound, and a video. Trust me, people will watch you if it's good quality. Doesn't matter what you're talking about to start off with. Get your quality right, you'll be good to go. On the Mac, I believe you've still got Final Cut. I haven't used a Mac for editing for ages, but Final Cut Pro was the one that I used to use. I don't know if that's still available because I haven't had a Macintosh now for 10 years. I think I had a PowerBook Pro back in the day. But once you've done that, you've got your video, you've happy with your video, you're going to want to put it on YouTube. So what happens when you make a YouTube channel? Chances are, if you're listening to my podcasts, you've already got yourself a YouTube channel. But if you're creating one for the first time or you're creating another one, just because you've got one channel, it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have another one. You can have another one. The first thing you might want to think about is naming the channel. Now, silly me, back in the day, I thought World of Wayne would be a really good idea because it's supposed to encompass everything that I do. It was never meant to be a model building channel. It was basically everything that's going on in my world, hence the World of Wayne. And I already knew it would be a play on words from the film Wayne's World. But that's where things get a bit bad, because obviously if you're mentioning Wayne's World, or you're looking for World of Wayne, all it's going to bring up in the search engines is things to do with Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, and Wayne's World. And I learned that the hard way. Not so much now, because obviously we've got quite a big subscriber base. But yeah, back in the day, all you'd get is Wayne's World videos, posts, everything like that. So when you make a YouTube channel, what I'm getting at is give yourself a unique name. Something that when you search for it, you're not going to get a lot of hits from other sites. You want to focus people on that. Once you've set that name, you're pretty much set in stone. And once you get to, I think it's 100 subscribers, you can actually change your URL to have a name. When you first start a YouTube channel, your name will be something like youtube.com/ and a load of letters. After 100 subscribers, you can change it so that you've actually got youtube.com/ like World of Wayne. That's how that works. So once you've got a YouTube channel, you upload your video to the channel, and uploading's dead easy. Again, I'll probably do a video for that. But the most important thing with uploading is make sure the title is exactly what you're actually doing in the video. You don't want no clickbait. You do want to use meta tag information, so use hashtags, but in the description field, when you use hashtags, it will only show the first 3 hashtags on your video. So make sure they're the 3 most prominent things that relate to your video. And then down the bottom, you'll have meta tags that you can write anything you want. I think up to 500 characters of what your video is about. So if I was doing a video about DeLorean, my meta tags would be hashtag DeLorean, hashtag Back to the Future, hashtag DMC, hashtag 80s, hashtag Marty McFly. There's just an example of some of the hashtags I have. And I normally try and fill them up, because what you're trying to do is match what people might write in a search engine to find your video. And obviously, if you've got that meta tag information in there, chances are your video will be picked so people can see that. Now, once you've got your meta tag information, most videos really need to be around about the 10-minute mark. If they're too short, normally under a minute, you want to post them as a YouTube short. Otherwise, between some reason, there's a limbo period between like 3 minutes and 10 minutes. So I do try and get my videos to be 10 minutes long. That will be that will optimize the search, so it makes the video more relevant. And the idea is that if someone's searching for your video, you want them to find it. So by having at least a 10-minute video, it will lift it higher into those search rankings. The other thing you want to do is have a really good thumbnail. Now, I used to go for a generic thumbnail for my videos. If you remember watching my DeLorean videos back in the day, it was the same card, and all that was changed in it was part 10, part 11 at the bottom. Quite a boring thumbnail after a while. So I actually take a picture of what I've worked on at the time, and then I just add an overlay to that. To do that, I'm using a program called PaintShop Pro. But as I mentioned, if you did go for the Adobe option, you could use Photoshop. And again, I'm probably going to have to do a demonstration how to do that as well. But making the thumbnail is the first thing people are going to see. It's the first impression they're going to get of your video. It's like being in a library and looking for a book, and you've got no idea what book you want, but you do like the cover. And I know they say don't judge a book by its cover. That's called clickbait. But you know what, the cover is going to strike your interest first. So if you've got a good thumbnail, people are more likely to click on your video. But when you're uploading to YouTube, that's the point where you'll be putting a thumbnail in so people can see how that looks. Once you've got that done, they will ask you a question: is your video made for kids or made for adults? If it's made for kids, you do get a lot of things taken off you, like the ability to comment on posts, and monetization is drastically affected as well. We are model builders, so even though this is a hobby for all ages and it might appeal to kids, it's not directly aimed at kids. So you don't have to say that that's for kids. Very important things. You don't want to limit yourself for no reason at all. You know the videos on YouTube which are primarily based at kids. If you're doing toy reviews or the way that you're presenting yourself, your mannerisms, you know what age group you're appealing to. On my channel, we checked this last night on the live stream, I'm actually appealing more to 44 to 55-year-olds. So that's how my channel is. But it will ask you that information. It will also ask you information when you're uploading to make sure you haven't got anything which goes against YouTube terms and conditions. And you do need to sign a disclaimer on every video about what your video contains. If you don't, or you declare that it does contain one of those things, it will stop monetization. Now, you won't get monetization on your video until you're over 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of viewing, and something else. I can't remember what the other thing is, but for now, when you're starting, just get your YouTube channel visible and people watching it. Don't worry about the monetization side of it. I never worried about that until after I was over the 1,000 subscribers. So your video is now up on YouTube. You're happy. You've got your video. You're happy with that. Your channel's looking good. How do you get people to watch it? Now, you can rely on the search engine. You've got your meta tags in there. You've got your descriptions in there. Trouble is that there's about 100 other videos that probably got the same meta tags and the same titles as yours. So why should people watch your video over theirs? Well, three things. They've got the thumbnail. Your thumbnail is the first thing that's going to grab them. The second thing is that if you start to post like content, like model building, it tends to actually bring you up as a recommendation from other model builders' channel. We don't get to pick that. YouTube call it an impression, and they'll think, well, if you liked this video, you might like this video. So if someone's watched a video about DeLorean, chances are if you've got DeLorean in your tag or meta information, it's going to flag up your video as a recommendation. But the biggest way, and I can't stress this one enough as well, to grow your YouTube channel is to advertise your video on other platforms. So I actually put my videos on Instagram, or links to my videos on Instagram, Twitter, with all the relevant hashtags and stuff like that, and Facebook. And I've got two Facebook pages. I've got my personal profile and I've got my World of Wayne page profile. It goes on there. Then make sure you link your video to all the sites which you think people would find interesting. So if I'm building 1.8 cars, I'll make sure I find every 1.8 car group on Facebook, and I'll post it into those groups that allow me to post. If I'm doing a specific build and there's a Facebook group for that build, I make sure I post on that Facebook group. Even when I'm doing like the Steve McQueen Porsche 917KH, I will make sure I post on Porsche's page, the Le Mans page, Steve McQueen page, anything related to Steve McQueen. Star Wars stuff's brilliant. You could go right down the list and just post it on every fan-based Star Wars page that allows you. Some pages won't allow you to post, just so you know. You can't post on every Facebook page, but if you can, we'll have the post dialogue up there. That will get people that wouldn't have normally found your channel to find your channel. And that's where you're going to get most of your audience from. Believe it or not, social media is the best way. And I say social media, I'm talking all of those things that I mentioned, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagram, the whole ensemble there is the fastest way to grow your channel and bring people on board. Because if they hadn't found you in the first place, chances are that you'll be sitting on YouTube wondering where all your subscribers are. That's where you're going to get it from social media. You're going to bring them across from another platform. But once you've done that and you start to get a steady flow, you will notice that the more people you get to watch, the more word of mouth you get, and the more people that recommended in their videos to get them to watch. And then you'll watch your base grow. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, the initial run between 0 and 1,000 can be a long old slog. I think it took over a year for me to get that, and it was one video. That's all it took, one video, to boost that over 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours viewing time. And that video was nothing to do with model making, funny enough. That was to do with Amazon doing the Amazon Video Direct, so I can upload my videos to Amazon, which I never did. I did one video, which I think was R2D2, and I do believe it's still on the Amazon Prime platform. But it's... I don't think I've ever used that since. But it only takes one video to get you over to that limit. But initially... but don't have delusions of grandeur. All you want to do is create a good content video. I've gave you the information you need to have good lighting, a microphone, a good work area, make your video, edit your video, get a good thumbnail, and how to put it on YouTube. Once it's on YouTube, go elsewhere to your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagrams, and get people from the interest sites that you think would relate to that video over to watch that video. Once they've done that, you'll start to see the subscribers come in and you'll start to see your view count come in. And that's pretty much how you do a YouTube studio and make a YouTube video. The only luxury things I have is obviously the background that I've got. You've seen I've got my Titanic behind me and I've got the Batinator. I get something when people are bored of me, they don't want to see my face. They can look in the background and see what I've got there. I've got a nice comfortable chair, even though the chair that I'm working on at the moment is broken. So I'm going to need to get another one. And if you can hear this, I don't know if you can, it's got a squeak. So don't like that. And my workstation, I have changed out recently to have it lifting because I do get hunched over doing models a bad back. So it's nice to be able to stand up and build a model at the same time as well. But that's what I do now. Since the pandemic, I've been trying to do videos Monday to Friday, so there's a video out every day, and I was doing 3 live streams a week, again using that same software that I mentioned earlier, OBS. And that software as I said, it's absolutely brilliant. They keep updating it, and believe it or not, this podcast I'm recording for you now is actually on OBS, where you can see that little spectro analyzer of my voice there. That is actually a plugin for OBS, and everything's completely free. So you're not paying anything for that, which is brilliant. But have a muck around with some of this stuff. Have a muck around with OBS, see how it works. Have a muck around with some of those software editing programs that I mentioned. And then in the YouTube channel in the coming weeks, I will do a video about how I edit and how I make thumbnails, I think. And I'll probably put that in a different playlist, because I know this does interest people, because I do get a lot of people saying that I have inspired them to make their own channels. That just makes me chuffed. The more people in this community, the better. This is a fantastic community. We've got a fantastic fan base, and it's one of these communities everyone gets on and everyone helps themselves. So my hope is that today's podcast has gave you a little bit of an insight of how I work here and how you can make your own YouTube channel. But I really do hope you like that podcast. If you did, please remember to give me a like. Otherwise, take care of yourselves. See you later.